Hello, everybody. I'm Griete Koker from Safe Shops. I have the pleasure today to host again a webinar. This time we take a deep dive into sustainability. And sustainability is indeed a hot topic. Also, with a bit Black Friday coming up, it's also one of the critics that a day like Black Friday gets. But in a way, for us, it's a landscape of opportunities, we think, where we as a web shop sector or e-commerce sector are already doing our best, but can still evolve towards a more sustainable way of working. And for that topic, or for this topic, you know or you do not know that we already did some study work from Safe Shops Out concerning sustainability that we present in a second order, because we first want to listen to Brian O'Malley from Adyen. He's head of sustainability over there. And what is nice to know is that just to present a bit Brian, he's an outside person, I think. He likes to work, is mad about sports when he's not working, I suppose. I think it's difficult to combine sometimes, but okay. And he likes to drink, I think, kombucha. And if I understood well, Brian, you also like to make it. So in a way that maybe for another seminar that we can organize how to make kombucha, but I think we're going to focus on your specialty at Adyen. And what is nice to know is that Adyen did already quite some efforts to get into CO2 neutral, to become CO2 neutral, or to do efforts in that direction. And it's maybe a different presentation that what you expect from Adyen, but Adyen is going to talk about really the way of working and how they want to stimulate you as a web shop to be sustainable as well. So their mission to get more sustainable is a mission that they want to with what they want to inspire you as a web shop as well. So maybe just one practical slide that I want to share with you is that it will take about 90 minutes max normally. If you have a question, just use the chat or the question bar. What we do is we gather the questions after the session of Brian, and I will ask them and try to make it a bit interactive with you guys. The recording will be shared afterwards as well, so it may be nice to share it with other colleagues if the message that we bring you will be inspiring. And that's I'm sure of that Brian will inspire you. So I leave the word to Brian. I think he still has to share his slides, but he will take over now, and during the next half hour, you will learn a lot, I'm sure of.
Thank you very much, Griet. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, you just have to put them on maximum volume. Yeah, there they are. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for having me today, and really excited to speak to everyone. As Griet mentioned, my name is Brian O'Malley. I work in Adyen as the head of sustainability, and I'm going to talk to you today about our impact journey so far. So I personally joined Adyen about 3 years ago now as a business analyst in a tech team. So nothing related to sustainability or giving back or anything in that area. But pretty quickly into my time in Adyen, I kind of noticed some opportunities and I started picking them up. And yeah, I think kind of part of my story is also part of our Adyen's impact story as well. So hopefully we'll be able to share some of those insights along the way. So yeah, firstly, just a little bit about Adyen. For those of you who don't know what Adyen does or who we are. We're actually a Dutch company formed in 2006 here in Amsterdam. But we're a tech company redefining payments. So we really wanted to disrupt the payment market and create a whole new force and a new way of working within the payments area. So we created a worldwide payments platform, basically end-to-end infrastructure connecting directly to payment methods, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, you name it. Also across your local markets, thinking like Bank Contact, Ideal, etc. We provide our services across point of sale, so in stores, mobile and online. We acquire transactions. We also issue some cards as well for some merchants recently using our banking license in Europe. And yeah, basically we work to help our merchants. That's always what we do, to build and to help our merchants to accept payments and to basically increase their revenue as well. So here's just a kind of a quick sample of some of the merchants that we have in Belgium that you might be familiar with. You can see it ranges from global merchants such as AB InBev, Pizza Hut, right the way down to more Belgian specific merchants such as Casidomi you see here. So this is always one of my fun slides. You can always no matter who people know who Adyen are or not, you can always relate to companies like this. But what we're here today to talk about obviously is impact and how we built our journey within Adyen. So first of all, I just want to quickly talk kind of about how we built our license to operate. And this is kind of how we began in Adyen. We began the journey probably about 2.5 years ago. And we really didn't have anything in place at that time. We had a couple of random initiatives that people had done, but really we were focusing on the Uber growth of the company. But then we decided, okay, it's now time for us to start. It's now time for us to start giving back. But we didn't want to immediately start, shouting from the rooftops about what we were doing, because we felt that there were certain things we needed to do to give us the right to start talking externally. So basically, we wanted to define our place in society. In our formula, we have a point about we make good choices for ethical and sustainable growth for our merchants. And now we basically wanted to extend that into the societal and environmental action. So we kind of looked at 3 different areas to begin with. We looked at local initiatives, footprint, and then into impact. So they were the 3 areas that we decided to kind of focus on from the beginning, start with small building blocks, and then move to a point where, today where we're really growing them and we're becoming prouder and prouder by the day of what we're doing. I think most importantly, we really wanted to look at areas where we could make the most impact as well. We definitely encourage doing small things at a local level, but where we can make the biggest multiplier, that was always our goal. Multiplier is the key word in everything we do. If we have €1 of investment, we want to be able to unlock, multiple times that €1 elsewhere, because then we really know we're doing our job right. So the first thing we looked at was local initiatives. And I mean, I think everybody's aware of these kind of projects. For example, on the left-hand side here, you see about cooking for the homeless in Paris. So we worked with a soup kitchen of sorts in Paris. And once a week we had a group from the office all throughout COVID times as well, preparing and cooking meals for homeless people in Paris. We've also actually invested in their kitchen as well, so they now have basically far wider reach based on the facilities that they have available to them. We have another initiative here from San Francisco, and also then Hack Your Future in Amsterdam. I think it's a really cool initiative that we worked at. We said, well, we are a tech company. We've got a lot of developers, a lot of really technical people within the company. So we wanted to see how we could really give back in that area. And Hack Your Future are a really cool organization who help refugees who've landed in the Netherlands and a few other countries since then, but mainly the Netherlands, to learn and upskill in the area of development. So they do like a 7-month training course on full stack development. We were looking, well, how can we help them? So we started helping them with, interview preparation. So we do mock interviews with them. So everybody who's going through the course now does at least 2 mock interviews with Adyen along the way to learn those skills, because these refugees are often incredibly talented and incredibly well qualified, but they might not have gone through the interview processes that we see here. And then we also decided, well, let's give back to them in a technical point of view as well. So we also give back to them through front end and back end trainings as well. So during the week when they have to do their homework for their classes, we also sit down with them and we help them, we mentor them through those periods. So these are just examples of the kind of initiatives that we have. We have 22 offices around the world at the moment. We have initiatives like these in all of the offices. And this is just really a small sample of what we wanted to do. And again, the key with local initiatives is really giving everybody the feeling that they can get involved. You know, from day one, we didn't want to turn anyone away. We wanted to create kind of a buzz. We wanted to create a feeling of worth within the company. And we really believe that this kind of local initiative pillar, started that energy internally. Next, we're going to have a quick look at the footprint story. So I'm just going to let a quick video play about our footprint story because it tells it in a nicer way than me.
Every day, we make good choices to build an ethical business. Taking care of our planet is everyone's business. And there is a lot to do. Firstly, we looked at the footprint we left behind. We calculated our historical carbon emissions and offset them. Then we decided to support projects in 3 main areas: environmental sustainability, renewable energy, and socioeconomic well-being. We're supporting reforestation in Brazil and Zimbabwe, generating solar energy in Chile, wind energy projects in India, and finding new ways to avoid methane emissions through sustainable waste treatment in Vietnam. This is just the beginning. We're Adyen, and we make good choices.
Okay, so that's just a really small intro into what we've done, especially at the beginning, in terms of our license to operate, as I mentioned, within the area of sustainability. So, you know, offsetting is definitely a controversial topic these days. And what we felt was we do believe in offsetting as the first step. We felt that we have a carbon footprint. Let's acknowledge that we have that carbon footprint, and let's invest in carbon credits to offset that footprint. So we from the start, we linked up with a carbon offsetting partner, and we did a full greenhouse gas accounting audit of our company. So that went from everything from, you know, the food we use in our canteens, the way we commute to the office, the data centers we use, how we business travel as well. We collated all of those on an annual basis, starting at the end of 2018. And then, as I said, invested in carbon offsetting projects, such as the ones you saw in the video there. As I said, we really believe that this was just like our license to operate. We have that footprint. And then next, we wanted to look at, well, how do we start bringing it down? How do we become more sustainable? How do we become more responsible as a company? So we looked at it and we said, well, firstly, we need to make sure that people understand why it's important to us as a company, why it's important to the world. I think that's an easier question, and that there's far more airtime for that in the media these days. But especially why we think it's important just as a tech company. You know, we don't have a massive supply chain. You know, our supply chain is a few terminals around the world. I maybe under-exaggerate a little bit there with a few terminals, but our terminals are our only supply. We don't have like clothes or food or whatever that we sell. We sell a service. But we still think it's really important that we deal with what we have. So since then, we've kind of started our journey into reducing. That goes from, you know, the energy we use in data centers, the energy, the heating, etc., that we use in the office here, how we commute to the offices, and then a big one now, and I think it's quite a big journey for us over the next couple of months and into the new year is how we address our business travel, because you know, that hasn't been really an issue of the last 2 years, unfortunately, I guess. But now we want to see how do we travel more responsibly and smarter. You know, our company was built on the foundations of working together, of working, you know, visiting the people from San Francisco, visiting the merchant in France, wherever it was, we would travel there, we would visit, we would talk, and we would work with them. And now we need to look at how do we travel smarter, and how do we really, you know, make the most out of these trips, so we're not going to be traveling all the time. So these basically are the two things internally that we're looking at now, as well as continuing our offsetting mission. And then I guess our final block in this journey in terms of sustainability was, how do we help our merchants? So we recognized that we have a really cool merchant base. So yeah, we basically wanted to see how we could take it a step further and also help our merchants. So actually the first thing we did in this area was we calculated the carbon emissions in a transaction involved in the processing of a transaction online, and also with a point of sale unit. So we did power testing on a point of sale unit to figure out how much energy was used per transaction. And we also included this in our offsetting calculation over the course of the year. So we really felt like we had kind of gone to the full extent of what we could cover in terms of offsetting our own footprint. And I think from there, then we wanted to see, well, how can we join forces with our merchants? So this is a quote from our CFO at the start of this year. How can we generate positive environmental impact at scale? And I think really at scale is the key point here. This is referring back to my multiplier point from earlier. How do we really make a big impact and make a difference on the world? So I think you can see everywhere today, and doing good is becoming more and more important by the day. You look at COP26 last week. You look at global inequality rising around the world. There's so many issues in the world today, and how as a company can you put that close to your core mission? We are a payments company and we are a financial services company, but we also want to be able to help in that area as well, because we do have a huge impact. So we looked at kind of our merchant base, and we recognized, well, we have a really cool merchant base. And that's one thing that I also reflected on earlier with the cool screen with all the grids of who we work with. How can we help all these merchants to do better? Because if we can make one small change on our side that can be used by multiple merchants, then we're really hitting that multiplier effect we spoke of. So we kind of looked at a few customer trends in the market today. And yeah, you can see them here. So I think these should be pretty recognizable to everyone, really. But customers are really believing that companies also have a part to play now, that they should be positively impacting society. They feel they're more connected to companies that care about the issues that they do too. So, I mean, lots more people are picking their brands based on what the companies do outside of their day-to-day business and what they can really do for social good. They're changing their buying habits, and they're really sending their money to places where they want it to be spent. And they like to feel like they're doing good while they're shopping. The time of fast fashion is definitely being questioned more and more, and hopefully the ethics around fast fashion will be challenged and pushed in the right direction. So we felt, well, how could we use our technology to make a positive and environmental impact? How can we help our merchants in that transition and to make them more popular to the customers of today? So we felt, well, let's leverage our expertise within the payments industry as an innovative leader. So let's really come up with the products and the features that our merchants wanted to build. We'll use our network. As I mentioned, we've got such a vast network of merchants, but we also have a vast network of partners, and we work across the world. As I said, we've got 22 offices around the world. How do we really, capitalize on all of these different opportunities? And most importantly, we have a really strong tech stack, and that's something we're really proud of as a business. It's what allows us to process our hundreds of millions of payments. And now, how can we do that? How can we use that and leverage that to do good elsewhere? We also think it strengthens your bond between you as a company and your shopper. So that's really what the core to everything we did. So I guess after all that, how does it work? So that's where we built Adyen Impact. So Adyen Impact basically is our merchant-facing tool that we offer to merchants, and we kind of built it on 4 key, pillars, if you like, that we want to be consistent across everything we offer. So we wanted to make sure it was a frictionless experience. So we didn't want to affect people's bookkeeping or reconciliation. We didn't want to have their finance teams being involved in this area. We wanted to work with trustworthy partners. So make sure that the best charities, the most outstanding charities and carbon credit providers are being used, so that there's never really questions about, oh, as a shopper, do I want to give my money there, yes or no? Transparency, again, you want to make sure that the money you donated is going to the right cause. You don't want a chip of that going to someone else, be it Adyen, be it Visa, be it whoever, along the way. So we wanted to make sure that we could get 100% of the fee or of the donation, etc., to go to the projects. And then finally, we wanted to make it as easy as possible. So we wanted to make sure there was as little development work required, because we know that basically, no matter who you are, what company you are, dev resources are scarce. So we wanted to see how we could make something as simple as possible with as limited or even if possible, no integration work. So the first feature we built was called Giving. And Giving basically helps your customers seamlessly donate to your preferred charity at checkout. So essentially how it works is, you as a merchant, you come to Adyen with a charity. You've partnered up with a charity, or maybe you look to Adyen and you see which charities we already have on board, and then you basically include that in your whole checkout flow. So here's a quick example of how it looks like in our checkout flow. So for example, you've purchased your goods, you've clicked the pay button, and then afterwards you get the pop-up which says, you've successfully received your order, but now would you like to donate to a charity? With a little bit of information about the charity. You've got the options. Do you want to donate 5, 10, 15 euro? You click donate, karma points. You've done your job. You've donated. It's one simple click and you've made your donation. We thought it was really important to make it as easy as possible. The payment details are reused from the checkout in the donation part. So really it's as simple as just clicking a box. We wanted that to provide this because we know that people, they don't like the hassle around donations. They don't like the hassle around payments, and that's what we've done already so far. Is we've made a frictionless payment platform. So how can we make this for donations? And that's why we felt that Giving was a really strong offering for it. So just to kind of give you an example of how Giving works in practice, we're live now with about 24 merchants, I think, worldwide. I'm starting to process some really significant volumes, which is really exciting. One that's probably relatable to everyone here is Ace and Tate, obviously a pretty big brand in the Benelux in general, and we've recently partnered up with them. They work with Trees for All, who are a really cool charity. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what they do. But yeah, Ace and Tate are a really forward-looking company. They recognize that everything they do and everything that we do in general has an impact on the planet, and they want to drive positive change and encourage others to also do the same. So they've looked at everything kind of in terms of their own supply chain and their own production, how they use plastics on their whole journey. For example, when someone buys some glasses and they're delivered, the lenses are just fake lenses during the delivery process to make sure that the glass frames don't get damaged. They wanted to make sure that becomes reusable, recyclable material. They have lots of these really cool journeys and really cool things that they're looking at in their supply chain. But then they said, well, okay, we want to be able to include our customers in this journey as well. So we'll definitely do our piece internally, and we'll really work to make ourselves as sustainable and as efficient as possible. But then how do we extend it to our merchants as well? And that's where they look to Giving, and that's where they look to integrate with Giving. So they jumped in, and it was pretty cool. They went live with 70 stores just overnight. Adyen Giving on the terminals in all of those stores, and now they're also extending it to their e-commerce platform. We're seeing nearly 13% of all shoppers are donating in the store, and as I said, the money is going towards planting trees. And I think it's really impressive and interesting to see how Ace and Tate are kind of taking their customers by the hand and walking them through the journey with them, educating them about how important it is for them and what they're doing, and how customers also can learn in the store. And it also gives them an opportunity to engage with the customer, to speak more to them rather than just being in a pure sales situation. They get to really talk to them about an issue and relate to customers. And then, as I said, along the way, we wanted to make sure that the fee goes 100% to the charities as well. So if there's a donation made, that donation will go directly to Trees for All in 100% of its amount. And Agen are the ones who actually cover the fees incurred along the way in terms of the payment costs. So it's free to use. Then I guess our other feature within the impact area is Restore. And this was what we looked at. It's similar to Giving in that it's another feature that lives in the checkout process. And it's an opportunity for customers to reduce the carbon footprint or the carbon impact of their purchase with a simple contribution. So how does this one work? Again, it's slightly different to the Giving flow, but basically during the checkout process, you get two options as a merchant. You can basically look up the delivery carbon footprint or the whole product life cycle of goods. So in this case here, you're looking at a polo t-shirt and a set of headphones that are in your basket. You'll then basically send a look to Agen to figure out how much does it cost to offset these goods. You get this tick box in your customer flow then. It's something you probably have seen before, maybe when you're booking a flight or whatever. You click it, you add it onto the checkout basket, and you complete the rest of the payment as normal. So it's essentially like choosing another method of delivery. And that's what we really wanted this Restore to be included as. We wanted to make sure that customers understand that there is a carbon footprint to their transaction. And just as they get delivered, we also want them to make it a sustainable and environmentally conscious transaction. So that's why we included it in the flow like this, even more kind of integrated in the flow. It's quite a cheap offset fee in general. So that's how it works. This is for our newer project, a newer product. We're currently live with our pilot merchant, who, again, some of you may be aware of, Casidomi, a Belgian e-commerce supermarket. We really found them to be a really cool pilot to work with. Kind of exactly the company we are looking for. They're just interested in doing anything they can to make the world a better place. They want to make sure that healthy and eco-friendly consumption is possible for everybody. And they were really happy to integrate this into their whole innovation and their journey. And they thought, well, yeah, let's use Restore to kind of engage our customers in a similar way to how Ace and Tate used Giving previously. So we're live with them now since early in the year. They're live across the Benelux where they have their goods delivered. And we're seeing nearly 12% of shoppers donating. So a very similar amount to the Giving example before. And in this case, their offsetting is they've chosen to send them towards reforestation projects. So we work directly with gold standard projects to make sure that we've got really the highest level of carbon credits available. And that's where their offsetting goes to. So I think, yeah, this is a nice little example of a quote of the partnership we had with Casidomi. And we really just enjoyed working with them. We thought it was a really cool opportunity to take the sustainability journey that one step further. Work with a really cool and growing company. And now with Giving and with Restore, we're looking at how do we kind of take it to another level. So I think that's really our next step is how do we expand these products and how do we bring them out to the world and how do we make that multiplier effect that I spoke about earlier? How do we make that really as expansive and as extensive as possible? So yeah, I think that's my story from today. I think I'll pass it back for some questions now.
Yes, and there are questions coming up. I'll just take a quick look. It's one from Ruben. What was the reason for using offset projects as a start? Was the power to reduce the carbon footprint not large enough in the beginning? And concerning emission, is it always better to prevent it rather than offsetting it?
Yes, I think a very good question in general. I think basically you'll always have at the moment in our kind of area, we'll always have a carbon footprint, and we want to reduce that for sure. But we thought like the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit was to offset it and to acknowledge that we have something, to reduce it. But then I think far more important is the reduction side of things. So as you said, it was just like the lowest hanging fruit getting started was the offsetting. But where you're really going to make the difference, we don't want to put something out into the air if we don't have to. So let's really look at how do we get it lower. And I think for any company out there, if you're small, you can choose which direction you want to go. Yeah, I'm not saying our way was the right way. That was the way we chose. I think either one, once you recognize that reduction is vital, and that's the only way we're going to kind of keep the planet as we see it today, is through reduction.
Mm-hmm. Annelies, next to the fact that she finds it quite interesting, or very interesting, I have to say, she also pops up a question. How do you calculate the offset fee?
Yeah, so very good question as well. So with the offset fee, they will basically, the merchant will send through an API call to us with a little bit of information in terms of what's in the checkout basket. So that might be, if they're using the full product offset, they'll send through a couple of codes with explaining which of the offset, which products they would like to offset. And then if it's the delivery as well, they'll send through where it's coming from, where it's going to, and the weight of the package. We then house all of that database basically in our systems. We run it through a calculator and then return it to the merchant. So really the merchant is just sending us through a simple message saying this is what we have, and then we respond with the amount.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we've worked with a carbon offsetting partner as well to build out this database, to build out this whole calculation as well.
Yeah, there are some norms also, I think, on European level to make calculation, I suppose. So I can imagine that you're using them one way or the other. What is it's still, some are still in piloting, I think. Not everything is already launched, but do you see already an enthusiasm versus giving and the other option of recompensating? Do you see a different attitude of acceptance in merchants, with the merchants?
I think that's what really excites me, is that there's interest in both, and it depends on who you speak to. One merchant is really interested in giving because they really want to provide to their local area. For example, we did a project with Ralph Lauren actually worldwide, and they went from having one global charity that they used on all of their stores, and they were getting relatively good acceptance, or as in relatively good conversion for giving. They changed it then to local charities based in the markets. Their rate of donations went through the roof, went so much higher. So, someone like them, they really want the giving side of things. Someone like Kazidomi, they really wanted to address the sustainability. They really wanted to address the delivery of their goods. Some others are looking at how the carbon footprint of their goods. It really depends, and that's why I guess it excites me, is that we have an option for both types of companies. Some companies might even want both. Some companies might want to cover the carbon offsets themselves, so they can say, hey, look at us, we've done our carbon offsetting, we've provided this delivery carbon neutral, we provided these products carbon neutral, which can then link in to an opportunity saying, well, since we've done that, would you like to also give to charity X? And I think that's
a strong message, of course.
Yeah, and you can really then bring the customer along. You're not, then you're really taking away a lot of the greenwashing issues that some people might always have, and you're really trying to reassure the customers along the way, hey, we're in this one for good.
Yeah, that was a bit my reflex on the giving one. If you say, okay, if you ask a contribution of the consumer, you have to do your homework as well, because otherwise you get, I think, a bit critics, or you can be criticized about the fact of demanding. It's just to reflect how you communicate it as well. I think it's a good opportunity, that possibility is there, and I will confirm it because in the study that I don't know, I don't think there are other questions, but so I will make the switch towards what we are going to present. We did also, to know, Brian, a study towards our not only our but the broad range of merchants and we asked them what they already did or what they expect of doing, of investing in the way of sustainability. sustainability. And so what we saw is CO2 compensation is one of the huge things that they are willing to invest in. So maybe it can confirm your presentation, but it is study-wise, they are ready for it to do it. So in a way, web shops are there. I still have a question of Annelies. How easy is it to bring it live? And is it possible to go live before the hottest week in December? And now you're going to ask me what is the hottest week, Brian, but that's a charity moment here in just before the week before Christmas, where a radio station organized quite an event and collects money versus a good charity thing. Is it still possible to go live for people like Annelies? I'm going to take a look from which shop Annelies is communicating. It's from you guys. Okay, Annelies is asking questions. Is it still possible before the warmste week?
It really depends on your setup. With lots of companies, yes, for sure. It depends on your platforms and which internal plugins and partners you use. We would like to say yes, and we would love them to start that conversation. If you have the platforms and partners that we have already built for, then 100% yes. Then we can get you going really quickly. It only takes a few days to get up and running. But as I said, it just depends if we've got to that point, because they're both growing products. So, for example, you might use Salesforce Commerce Cloud as your backend tool. If you use that, then you can use Giving, but we don't have it built for Restore yet. But it just depends on which one you're using. So please feel free to reach out to us and ask, because we can definitely investigate it and do our best to get it up.
Okay, I suppose that we'll send also the presentation, or maybe not the presentation, but the recording. If there are questions about the presentation of Brian or initiatives that want to be taken, just contact. We will put you in contact with Adyen, of course. So we will try to match you both web shops and you guys to get it done. Thank you for this presentation, Brian. I'll just do the switch now. I'll just present what we have been doing from our side at Safe Shops. So maybe a short recap of, I don't know if you see my presentation for the moment, Brian, can you just confirm? I think it is. It is live. Now it's live. Yeah. Okay. Just a small recap for us from teams that we tackle. In a way this year, but it's not only this year, it's already quite a while. We are, of course, the Belgian E-commerce Association, trying to stimulate trust and growth in Belgium. And so for us also, next to security, which is quite a hot topic as well as association, where we get lots of questions about, innovation is one of the topics that we treat, and values that we want to be innovative as well as an association, but we also want to stimulate innovation towards our members. But sustainability is one of the topics as well. So for us, sustainability is maybe it's not a topic, it's an attitude for us as an association, but we like to spread the word and give inspiration about the possibilities to evolve towards a more sustainable environment. For that, we already did a small recap of 2 minutes. We already organized an Eco Wednesday. So that's a Wednesday where we gather all sustainable web shops. It was quite a discovery this year. We organized it in May, and we had a nice overview of I think about 200 web shops showing out showing some products, showing some did some promotion as well on some sustainable products. So it was a gathering and a kind of manifestation in a way towards the consumer to say, hey guys, these are sustainable web shops in our point of view. We also did a lazy Sunday, but next thing to know is on Black Friday, next Friday, we also organize a local day, because at sustainability, it's quite nice to have a local shopping as well. It can be more sustainable to stay to make the choice locally, and so we also on that local day we will stimulate consumers to discover local deals. So in a way, that's a bit from our sustainability point of view, that what we do towards the consumer, to communicate from who are the ones who are already doing it better. Maybe I have to say not everybody is already at a level of being perfect, but already doing better than the average. We want to promote them. And the second thing that we do or we did this year is, first of all, we did our Belgian online shopper survey. It's more the research side that we have. We did a research towards the consumer to see what his attitude towards sustainability was, and how he's willing to pay for certain sustainable products, sustainable delivery. Does he know sustainable web shops? That is in that study. We already presented that earlier in I think on the awards. There was a little part of it, but we you can still download that study. But we also did a second one, and that's maybe the one that I'm going to present today. That's one that we did from September to October, and where we asked the web shops in what do they know already, where are they investing in, and how do they see themselves evolving in this and 3 years. This can give inspiration to know, okay, where are people standing or web shops standing for the moment. And a second thing that we did, or we're doing right now, it's going to be ready next week, end of next week, that we wrote together with Helene Boudeo, that also wrote this book. This is a book about sustainability and e-commerce. And she describes in that book, she gives tips and tricks, she gives numbers, she gives a good insight in how a webshop could evolve towards a more sustainable e-commerce. Well, we asked her to write the introduction of a white paper as well, where we get some starting tips, some insights how to adapt your business towards a more sustainable business. And there are also some cases inside of some partners that participated. A VP shows of how they use, for instance, recycling and how they try to get this kind of re-commerce attitude towards inside their business model. And there are other cases that are treated, for instance, from B-Post, from Video Logistics, where you can see what you can do in a way to get your delivery more sustainable. So it's quite an inspirational document that will be launched end of next week. So keep it, just try to follow us and download it at our site. So my part is today to talk about results of the Belgian Online Sustainability Barometer. Maybe first of all, I talked about the consumer. I just note two things, and maybe that's from consumer perspective. If we ask to a consumer, what differentiates a good webshop versus a bad webshop, then 45% tells us that they expect a webshop to have an eye for sustainability. So it's one of the issues that they expect of. It's one of the characteristics that they expect from a webshop. So to having that eye for sustainability. But if you then ask to the consumer, hey, do you know a web shop that is sustainable or is acting sustainable? 75% cannot name a web shop that is. So profiling is still lacking there, or in a way, maybe we're not doing it good enough to be considered as a sustainable web shop. So in a way, there is an expectation, but in practice, they can't make a differentiation between, they're not yet there to point or to pinpoint web shops that are doing better than average. And then if you ask a consumer also, you just keep it in mind, what is important for him, then the first thing that he names is the visual pollution, I will say, that he has with or that he sees with e-commerce, and that's the package. So the packaging for him is the most important aspect when it comes up to having the perception of a web shop being sustainable. So for him, packaging and the way the package is efficiently filled, and if it's not if an order is not distributed in 2 or 3 times, that are a kind of a criteria that he finds very important. It's in the second line that he evaluates the products. So the product himself that he buys, because there, of course, he's more he's in a way responsible for, but he expect the web shop to have sustainable products but it comes after the package. And in the third line, he sees in a sustainable web shop as a web shop that does his deliveries sustainable. While we all know in a way on the impact of, we do not know maybe, but Helene Buldeo mentioned it in her book, that 50% of the capacity that we have as a web shop lies in deliveries. So if we deliver because the product compared with another product that you buy in an offline store doesn't make a difference on the impact of e-commerce. So if we want to get a sustainable e-commerce business, we of course have to invest in packaging, we have to invest in delivery, and of course the product has to be sustainable as well. But in a way, to make the differentiation with normal shopping, it is package and delivery, of course, that makes the huge difference. But they do not really know how to what is sustainable delivery, for instance. They do not really know what, in a way, sustainability means for them. So to give an idea, if you ask the consumer if it's more sustainable to go to a pickup point or to have home delivery, he doesn't has a clear mindset about it in which option could or should be more sustainable for him. So he still needs a lot of guidance. That's something that we see as well, that guidance is lacking and that it is a bit unclear for the consumer how to shop in a way sustainable. So knowing that, we thought, okay, it is important for us to have a perspective of does the web shop or does the e-commerce sector himself already knows how to act sustainable, and so which solutions are already known for him, what did he already implemented it, and what are his intentions for the future, and can we see barriers for development or for actions that should be taken on this field. So we did that questionnaire where we have a nice, let's say, we had lots of products categories. Most of the most important product categories were present, also in size. Belgian market is a size with a lot of small players. More than in a way a long tail, let's say. So this gives us a good idea of the reality of a Belgian market. But we all know in a way, and I see some big shops participating today. We all know that 3% of the Belgian web shops are responsible for 86% of the turnover in Belgium. So knowing that makes it quite important that also bigger shops invest, of course, in a more sustainable business and could have quite some impact on the e-commerce side. So the survey is in a way representative for a Belgian market size. And if we then ask them how many of those participating webshops found it important or very important to invest or to have an eye for sustainability inside the webshop, then we see that 73% say, okay, for me as a webshop, it is important until very important. For 25% it's nice to have, so they're not yet convinced, let's say that way, and 2% find it completely unimportant. So that a bit we always have some small part, and hopefully it stays in a way that's smart. If I can do my personal opinion about it, give my personal opinion about it. So, but in a way, 75% say, or 73% say, okay, for me it's important. If you then ask, how do you rate yourself? If you rate yourself as a web shop, we see that says the average rate is 6.5 on 10. When you ask them, how would you score yourself on sustainability, on what did you do, are you a sustainable web shop, yes or no? And they expect themselves to have a rating or a score of 7.9 in the coming 3 years. So you see a kind of motivation to go further and to evolve further towards a more sustainable business. And if you then see from the micro to the smaller web shops, the enthusiasm is even bigger. There you see that 6.9%, 9 on 10, yeah, percent. No, 6.9 on 10, so 69% they give themselves a score of 69% or 6.9%. Oh God, 6.9 on 10 on sustainability, and they even think they will going to evolve to 8.3. The larger web shops are more critical towards themselves, and they say, okay, for us it's 5.3, and we think we can be able to reach 7.2 on in 3 years. So still, you see, for the medium to large web shops, they have a motivation to better and to have quite an impact on sustainability, on their evolution, on their investments on sustainability. So if we then look on the packaging, because we divided the research in 4 major segmentation, because also the consumer looks on that way towards the company. We did not really investigate the impact on buildings and putting solar panel on your operations, let's say it that way. We just focused really on the e-commerce impact that can be done. And if we then ask on the way of packaging, what do you do already, and what do you know already, and what are you maybe willing to do and is doable, and what's you didn't do yet but is really not doable as well. Where don't you believe in a way to be realistic? And if you then see, if we go up to down, it's maybe a bit small, but bundling shipments is already done by 86% of the participating web shops. And of course, there are some problems if you're a larger web shop with multiple warehouses. It can be a problem to bundle some orders, but in a way, there's already a mentality of doing this, and there's still a small part that isn't doing it, but it is doable. So there is a kind of potential of 90% of trying to bundle shipments. If we then go down to the use of durable limited padding materials, already 77% uses it. And we can run. I'm not going to run through all the details of what is already done and not. The slides can be downloaded at our website as well. But it is. What is important to see in this graph is that the main drivers of packaging, meaning using right materials, using the right, trying to avoid air into the package, and that kind of things are already known. But you see that there is still some possibilities on efficient packaging with trying to use the correct software. There is still some possibility to reduce the volume of products when it is possible, and there is sending unpackaged is seen as a bit impossible or not feasible, just like using customized packaging machines. That will only probably be an investment, of course, for bigger web shops, and of course, a smaller, they say, okay, for me, it's not, I haven't done it yet, and it isn't feasible as well. So it's a quite logic response of what we see, and it is a quite good response as well, because you see high rates of people scoring on packaging. Because if we compare it with the next question, where we asked in transport and logistic, what did you do already? Where did you invest already? There we see lesser green or darker green coming up, meaning that it can be explained by two things: that the option is not yet very active or possible in Belgium, or it is difficult more to install, and it is lesser known. For instance, offering pickup points is a well-known option for a web shop, and in that way you see that 68% already is doing it, but still 32% is not doing it. And in a way, we know, or we do not know, that having a pickup point can be a sustainable alternative if and there are conditions concerning a pickup point, is the consumer goes to the pickup point because it's a centralized, of course, delivery, and it can be more sustainable if the consumer does his last mile also in a sustainable way. For instance, when he already has a traject and he passes by the pickup point, then it can be considered as a sustainable way of picking up his goods and not doing an extra traject for it. When he, for instance, picks it up by bike or by foot, then it's also a sustainable way of picking up, getting delivered. But in this way, offering that pickup point should be one of the options. In a way, it should be one of the options because it gives an alternative for those who do it the last mile towards that pickup point and on a sustainable way. But you see that the intention of 22% is there. So in a way, pickup points are a well-known alternative and will be offered by almost every web shop in the coming time. Lockers is a bit in the same evolution. If we then know that a lot of lockers are placed these days, there's a lot of zones created with lockers. It is important to watch out for that evolution on pickup on how web shops will adapt it, yes or no, in their checkout. When you see then bicycle transports, there you see a lesser implementation. Only 28% uses it already, and only 24% sees it as feasible. So there's 42% that doesn't see that feasible to have a delivery with bicycle transport. Probably the product is not adaptable, or there are some issues with it, or there is a not known position. They do not know that there are already companies offering this as an alternative, or it is too expensive. There can be multiple reasons. Maybe next study we will try to know why, but in a way it is what it is in this offering. And if you go down, for instance, and this is what I was willing to say, Brian, which is the good option towards you. If we ask, do you want to have CO2 compensation for the emissions that you do for delivery? Do you want to offer that, or do you offer it already? Then only 1% says okay, we're doing this already, and probably it's because it's not already into PSPs there. As checkout, and it's a question of offer, but you see that 62% says yes, we were thinking about it. For us, it's we didn't do it yet, but it's doable to have it. So that's what I was trying to say. There's a positive attitude with Belgian web shops to offer that CO2 compensation. What we also see is, for instance, for city distribution center. That is an option that is not known very well. You see that 36% do not know the option of having a city distribution center where everything is gathered at the city border and then transported on an environmentally friendly way inside the center. It is an option that is not very known, so that's why, of course, we motivate City Depot and that kind of institutions that offer that delivery possibility to promote it even harder. So there is still a lack of knowledge about it. So you see that most options are known, some are a bit less known, like electric cards. Of course, for the moment, we cannot choose as a web shop a party or a logistic player that offers only electric distribution. But in a way, it is an evolution that they are trying to, if they organize, for instance, themselves their delivery, you already see 80% using electric ecological transport as an option. So just do your deep dive into those numbers. Basically, if you compare it with packaging, you see that there is still more things to do over there, and there is still more reluctance about the feasibility. So we see that in some options there is not really a big belief, and it is up to us to try to find a good way of promoting, of showing you the options and the possibilities, of course, on delivery. If we also ask them what you expect from a logistic partner in terms of sustainability, then 86% expect them to invest in green transports, electric, biofuel, cargo bikes, whatever. In a way, it has to be green transports. After that one, sufficient collection points is coming up, and shipping CO2 neutral are the top 3 of a logistic partner. And of course, bundling shipments when it comes to fulfillment is a 4th option that is asked for, and city distribution is the 5th one. They less believe in organizing the ships and deliveries themselves. And they less have a belief in lockers for the moment, I think, because I think the adoption rate is maybe slow, but it can be something that is pumping up the coming years. So in a way, it is for, especially if you ask the web shop in what do you have to invest as a logistic partner, just give us green transport. And then a third question that we ask is, rank us which delivery method that you think is the most sustainable. And we made some options: home delivery with cargo bike, home delivery, for instance, with electric vehicle, fossil fuel. And in a way, it gives a good, if you would put research behind it, it would give probably the same ranking. So in a way, the ranking is quite correct, what web shops perceive as more sustainable, because that could be a risk if they think that, for instance, say something, home delivery with fuel would be more green than home delivery with electric, which is in this case not the case. If electric is, of course, made with green sources, but in a way, the perception of which delivery method is the best is clear. So there is no issue in one way or the other. But again, everything also depends on the attitude of a consumer, of course. If he takes a pickup point, he has to go to the pickup point with a bicycle or something like a green method to be able to stay sustainable in a way. So just this confirms that the webshop is well informed about delivery methods. And on returns, if you then look at returns, we see that 83% also takes invest in a better return, so tries to get better, clearer product information, adds size charts to have, for instance, less return. So of course it is logic, because return is a cost inside a web shop. So it is one of the logic things that 83% also do the effort to minimize return at the customer side. But there are also other initiatives that already are taken, for instance, offering packaging that can be used for return, so that there is not a double packaging issue for the consumer, trying to get more sustainable processing of return products, so recreating a second-hand offer, or trying to repack so that there is no destruction of goods, is something that is already quite done, but there is still possibility. And offering drop-up points where a person can bring their return inside is already done by 52%, but is not an option that is very, very often taken. And avoid return by fitting technology, AI, or having a next pickup at the next home delivery, or rather smaller options where they do not really always believe in. So it's more like difficult. They see difficulties, probably also because technology still has to evolve in that way. So there's still work from technical sides, I think, to be able to adapt AI, for instance, on their side. But you see the most logic things on returns are already, they're already are investing in it. If we then ask what is the average return rate that you have, then overall companies say it's 3.5%. an average return rate overall. If you then look into the larger web shops, it's a bit higher. They're about 7%, having a return of 7%. Smaller and micros web shops are between 2 and 3% of return rate. But what is quite important to see is that you have 20% having no returns at all. And it is more like also in the micro and smaller web shops that this happens. And you see, for instance, also 65% that only has a return of 1 to 5%. So there, the return rate is of course also a bit dependent on the sector. I also invite you to fill in a next mini questionnaire that we do, because with this question I was happy with this result, but the problem was if we then look into the sectors, it became a bit too small to make really like strong sector conclusions. So we're doing a second round of these 2 or 3 questions just to have a better insight in what is the average return in fashion, foods, and that kind of things. We already see some indications. For instance, this what we had is that there was a high return rate in fashion, about between 8 and 12%, but we are doubting about the sector division that we have over there. So I'm inviting you to fill in that questionnaire and to make these numbers even more accurate. But of course, in foods and really clear things like books and games and that kind of stuff, we already saw a smaller return coming up. So return, how is it treated as well? It is to 82% of the return is in a way recuperated. So 74% is repackaged and sold again, and 5% and another 9% is sold as a second hand. So we are about 82% that is used again or not wasted. 11% is destroyed. And 5% others are things that giving them away to charity, stock sales, and other stuff that is happening right away. And 2% is treated by a waste company. They already use a professional company to treat the waste and to see how things can be done. On the way of offer, if we see 75% of the web shops have already an eco offer in their line or offering some eco products. 25% just doesn't have an eco offer. And if we then ask them why, often because there is not an alternative yet on product level. So people are, the web shops are in a way, some of them are offering a full eco offer or really choosing for sustainability. And 55% says, okay, I do partially offer, that you see often by selecting a label or filtering on labels and that kind of stuff. And if we then go to communication, 6 out of the 10 web shops communicate their efforts to consumers, where 58% say, yes, I do something and I try to communicate about the efforts that I take towards sustainability. 42% says, no, I do not do anything, even though they sometimes invest in sustainability. So I think it is important also not only to do it, but also to communicate about it. Because that's a bit what Brian did in a way. That's what was his presentation, by inspiring how to get more CO2 neutral or how to adapt. It can be inspiring also for the consumer, and I think it's something that the consumer in a way expect. What about the future? That's one of my last slides. Is if we ask them then, which actors do you think that are important for the movement, for the sustainability movement, then we see that public opinions like influencers and that kind of people are the main driver following the web shops to have even more focus on sustainability. The demand of the consumer, they expect the consumer to be even more in demand for more sustainability, and themselves. So they think that they can be a good driver as well to develop sustainability inside the e-com sector. And then it's followed by opinion makers. You see already that there is less trust in government, and there is less expectance from the logistic partners are they going to be the big drivers in a more sustainable e-commerce? While we think, of course, as an association, that there's a big role for those logistic partners, because the offering can, if we all get in a kind of electric based transport, or CO2 neutral transport, of course, that would solve already half of the CO2 impact that we have with distribution packaging. So in a way, they think the drivers are themselves the consumer and the public opinion. And if we then ask them, okay, what is framing you? Then they say, okay, nothing. 27% say nothing stops me to invest in sustainability. So that's a good thing. 34% say it requires too much investment. I don't have customers that ask for it, and it would be too expensive or have an impact on my speed or efficiency of delivery. And I don't think my investments would have quite a big impact. So if they say, okay, what's framing you, it's more, it's mostly the fear of costing too much and having an impact on services, and yeah, not an impact on sales in a way, because customers do not ask for it. So concluding is most of webshops are already making genuine efforts, and we expect them to invest even more. We see that different options for sustainable delivery to the consumer are still limited, and there's still some movement that is possible over there. But the ambitions are high, so we expect webshops to invest and go further with the path that is taken. Natalie, are the subsidies grants for checking the current footprint of your company and investigate how we can improve our footprint? Well, wait a second. Are there subsidy grants for checking the current footprint of your company and investigate how we can improve our footprint? That's a good question. I think I do not have any knowledge of a kind of sustainability audit, if I can say it that way, on Belgian level. What I do know is that there is a restore plan from where Dermagne, the cabinet of Dermagne is focusing on, and there is from Europe a kind of restore money that is collected. What I know is that they're investigating into the e-commerce sector, how to and they are thinking about giving subsidies towards a more sustainable in general environment. So I think this can be one of the propositions that's bumping up from there to help companies get insight into their footprint. But for the moment, I do not have any knowledge of current grants for that. If other people would know, please put it in the chat and help me out. But I don't think there are already audits subsidies for that one. Do you have an idea, Brian? Do you know?
I'm not aware of any grants, but my response is always like, you can still do your own kind of mini assessment yourself and still target your own footprint. I mean, everybody has an idea of what the footprint is. They might not be able to measure it to exact numbers, but at least start with something without having to spend money. And then obviously, if you have the money and you have the resources to do so, then you can go and do a proper assessment. But there's so much you can do without also actually purchasing the services elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there other questions bumping up in the chat or in the other people having a question? Maybe nice to know is that you can see the numbers, because quoting numbers is also always a boring thing, I think. But it is it gives insights, of course. So you can download this study and to look at it at ease and to see where you are maybe positioning yourself in towards the concrete results. As of next week, I would certainly also propose to download the white paper, because in that white paper there are quite some tips and tricks about, for instance, what we see in the surrounding countries, where we see, for instance, delivery methods that are a bit comparable with the checkout of Adyen for then the grants or the charities and that kind of initiations. We see, for instance, that labeling of more greener delivery methods or more greener delivery time slots are indicated, so that the consumer is guided towards a more greener delivery. That are kind of tips and tricks that you can find into the study and see where investments are made for the moment, and where you can maybe pick up some of the ideas for your own webshop. So I would certainly advise you to download that checklist, but it will make a subject of a next webinar, I think, in the coming months. So Katrien will keep you informed about when we are going to present that white paper in detail. So then there is only one thing to say to everybody is thank you for presenting me. If you still see me, I didn't want to leave because I didn't want to put up my light, but if you still see me, I'm going to wave and thank everybody for participating today. If there are still questions for Adyen or for us, please ask them. The contact details are known, and Adyen will certainly maybe send you some the presentation afterwards, so you can take contact with them as well. So thank you for participating, and see you on a next webinar. And good luck with Black Friday, whatever is coming up, with the Christmas time, because it's going to be a busy time for everybody. Keep well. Bye-bye. Thank you, Brian, as well.